All right, there we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. I think y'all can hear me. Yep. Let me move this back a little more. Let me move this back a little more. It's Truthful Tuesdays, and I want you to keep a couple. I want to move this back a little more. Bro, I don't know if y'all can hear me, bro. Can y'all hear me right now? Let me see. I don't know. What's up, good people? What's up, good people? What's up, good people? Bro, I don't know if y'all can hear me, bro. Okay. All right, cool. Y'all can hear me. Y'all can hear me. All right. So I don't want to waste too much time. I want to go ahead and get right into it. What's up, good people? Welcome, welcome. This is going to be a new addition that I am actually adding to my podcast. So first and foremost, if y'all have not subscribed to the podcast, man, please go on YouTube and subscribe to the podcast. Definitely want y'all to be able to do that. Again, for tonight, please don't forget that tonight we are on Let's Talk About It Tuesday tonight at 7 p.m. We are live on YouTube. All right, so we are live on YouTube tonight at 7 p.m. with me and my guy Mike Smalls. If y'all got any topics that y'all want us to talk about or anything like that, man, we want to make sure that we are covering those topics. It's basically a conversation in public that most people won't even have in private. It's an opportunity for a few good men to kind of get up, talk about their experiences, highlight different topics, controversial topics that's going on right now in the community. Also, talk about love, talk about friendships, to essentially talk about a bunch of different things that matter in our community and have open dialogue about them. Create a safe space for people to have agreements, have disagreements, agree to disagree, be able to have and share a platform with multiple people so that they can say the things that are near and dear to them. And so what I want to do today, what I want to do today is I want to y'all see the title, right? The biggest challenge that um the biggest challenge that I believe, of course, this is this is of course my opinion, but let me qualify this opinion by saying first and foremost that the reason that I feel like I am able to have this opinion is essentially because I go into schools, I work in schools, I work with teachers, um I work with youth, I work in juvenile detention centers, and this is the reason that I feel like I'm able to have this conversation, right? I also work with, I have a mentor program for youth. I also have a mentor program for entrepreneurs. Um, issues, uh, issues that, and so sorry, y'all, I'm trying to make sure that I'm live on all my platforms. But so again, the reason why I feel like I'm qualified to have this conversation is because I work in this field, right? I'm not necessarily an educator by trade, but I do work with a lot of different educators. And I want to tell y'all, man, the biggest issue that I see with the youth right now in today's society is the biggest issue that I see, the challenge that I know a lot of parents, teachers have to overcome is literally the youth are just not inspired. They're just not inspired. They are they're like the level of inspiration that I think that the youth should possess man, they just do not possess that level of inspiration. I think it's difficult for a lot of youth to see beyond today, to see beyond this current moment. And I think because they don't see beyond today, because they don't see beyond this current moment, it makes it very difficult for anyone to talk to them about certain things. Reason being is because they're not seeing, looking, or paying attention to anything beyond the current moment that they're in right now. And I think that that becomes the issue when you think about trying to inspire somebody who's uninspired, right? So when you think about trying to inspire somebody who's uninspired, what are the challenges that you're going to have? You're going to have you're going to have someone who's very combative because they can't see beyond where they are right now. You're going to have someone who challenges almost everything that you say. Reason being is because they can't see beyond where they are right now. You're going to have somebody who's very pessimistic. Reason being is because they can't see beyond where they are right now. You're going to have somebody who's very negative. Reason being is because they can't see beyond where they are right now. And I think one of the things that we have to do as adults, we have to do as parents, we have to do as educators, one of the biggest things that we have to do is we have to expose our youth to certain things, regardless of whether their current stature is upper middle class, rich, wealthy, or whether their class is in poverty, lower middle class, regardless of where you are in your life. The thing that you have to do is you have to be able to see the other side so that you can appreciate it, or so you can try to obtain it, you can try to reach it. One of the things that helped me when I was younger was recognizing what I was exposed to. Now, I have a saying, and it talks about the 3 E's to elevation. And I think this is where we need to start with the youth, particularly youth that are not engaged. Okay, that's one of the biggest issues that a lot of teachers are having. They're not engaged, they're not inspiring, they get very bored very quickly. And one of the reasons that I think they do is because they don't have a project, they don't have they don't have a goal, they don't have something that they're working towards. And so I think to my families who are on that totem pole of like poverty, lower middle class, right? One of the things that I think that would be beneficial would be inspiring to get to upper middle class or even upper class or wealthy or rich. We have to aspire to those things. But how can I aspire to something that that I don't believe is obtainable, right? How can you miss what you don't have? How can you desire something when you don't even know what it is that you desire? Okay, if you've been eating ramen noodles your whole entire life, how do you know that you want a steak? How do you know that you want lobster? How do you know that you want something that it lambs? Lamb chops? How do you know that you want something on a higher level if you've never experienced that thing on a higher level? Well, you've got to be exposed to it. At some point in time in your life, what happened is that somebody came around, they exposed you to something, and then you started to like that thing. So what happens is you begin to become exposed to certain things, and then from there, you actually start to like those things. Here's what I'm saying. Here's what I think is happening with a lot of the youth today. They don't understand the value of their lives because they're not exposed to what the capabilities and the possibilities of their lives could potentially be. They don't see themselves as wasting time because they don't feel like their life is valuable anyway. They don't feel like they're wasting away. Reason being is because they don't think that their life is valuable anyway. And when we don't allow them to see the value in their life, they're not, how will they ever value it? Again, you believe what is possible by seeing what is possible. They need to be able to see more people who came from situations like they did and became successful. And success is relative, right? Success to everybody doesn't look like you've got millions of dollars, you got a multi-million dollar mansion, you got Rolls Royces and Lamborghinis and Ferraris and Porsches in the garage. That's not what it means. Success to everybody is relative, but they need to see some form of success. The reason why I started to desire certain things and I started to listen to and follow certain people is because I saw that they had something that I want. And once I saw that they had something that I wanted, maybe not the same thing, but something of similar value, that's when I started to say, you know what? This is what it is that I desire. So I'll give you an example. When I was a kid, thank y'all. Appreciate y'all, man. Make sure y'all tap the like button. When I was a kid, I was doing construction with my dad, and we were in a house, and it was a huge house, y'all. Like one of them houses that you used to dream about when you were kids. And we were go into this house, and we were putting up a disco light, a disco ball, and a fog machine in this young boy's room. And I started to look around as a curious 12-year-old. And I started to notice, I'm like, yo, this is a huge room. But dad, you said this is his bedroom. How come I don't see no bed in here? And my dad looked at me with a straight face and said, this isn't his bedroom. This is his playroom. Blew my mind. 100% blew my mind. It was at that moment that I realized, and I said to myself, yo, in my life, I want to have a playroom. I got to have a playroom. I asked my dad, I said, Dad, how do you get a playroom in your house? He said, go to school, get your education, and you'll be able to be a boss. You'll be able to get yourself a playroom. All right, cool. Got it. I go to college, and we're watching T.I. and Tiny Family Hustle. I see them. They have this thing. It's called a white room. And now I'm asking myself, how do I get a white room? How do I get a white room? I take the same philosophy. Go to school, get your education. Go to school, get your education, and you'll be able to get yourself a white room. Y'all, 2 years ago, I was able to get my playroom and my white room. One of the other things that I saw about my dad was that I saw how hard my dad worked on these different properties, and I always saw my dad in like a beat up truck. And then I would see the guys who were the owners of these different houses, right? I see the guys who were the owners of these different houses. They would come and they would look around and they would, all right, cool, right? These were the owners of the construction company. So they are okay, all right, cool. They come with their hard hat on. They tell my dad what to do, and then they would walk out. And I'm like, Dad, how come his truck nicer than yours if you're the one that's doing all of the work? My son said, go to school, get your education, or go to trade school, get your education, and you'll be able to be the boss, and you won't have to work as hard as this. I literally took that to the bank. That was the thing that I took to the bank. I said to myself, all I got to do is I got to go get my education. I got to get some information. And then from there, I don't have to do the same things. I don't have to do this back-breaking labor. Y'all, the youth that we have today, they will believe what is possible when they see what is possible. But if they're never exposed to it, they will not know that it's possible. They will forever live their lives not knowing that it's possible. They will forever live their lives not believing that their life has any value, okay? So the first thing that I want you all to do, parents, teachers, anybody who's connected to any sort of youth, I need you to expose them to something that they have not seen. If they're on lower middle class, if they're in poverty, if they're in a homeless situation, if they're in a shelter, if they're in HUD, if they're in Section 8, regardless of where they are on that lower end of the totem pole, I need you to start exposing them to things that they had never seen before. I need you to expose them to things they never seen before. One of the other examples that I took, one of my mentors, what he told me to do, he told me to go to certain restaurants. He told me to ask for certain things. He told me to fly first class. When I would go to a restaurant, he said, Jeff, I guarantee you've done this at one point in time in your life, and I never want you to do this again. I said, okay, what is it? He said, I guarantee you that you went to a restaurant and you asked how much to add shrimp to it. I said, man, it's almost like you were there. How'd you know that? He said, because that's what a poor mindset would do. And this isn't about money in terms of rich or poor. It's just about a poor mindset. He said, I guarantee you asked how much it costs to add shrimp. I said, yo, you are 100% right. I asked you that. He said, I bet you the next question you asked after they told you it costs $6 to add shrimp to it, I bet you said, how many shrimp do I get with it? And when they told you 4 shrimp, you was in there doing math like, okay, that's $1.50 per shrimp. Okay, how big are the shrimp? You're in here trying to dissect and do math with shrimp. Jeff, just get the shrimp. Just get the shrimp because you deserve the shrimp. Again, about what you're exposed to, about what they believe is possible. Before I was exposed to getting shrimp on my steak, on my chicken, on my salmon, I had never known about it. But because I was exposed to it, I started to now create that as a part of my daily reality, right? Because when we grow up in lower middle class, when we grow up in poverty, we see those other people and what they have as something that's completely unattainable, and we don't even think or believe that we can have those things because they obviously did something scammerish, right? They obviously did something scammerish in order to get those things, when all the time that's not true. That's not true. But how do we know that that's not true? Because we don't ask the questions. The youth aren't asking questions like that. They're not asking questions like that. Only the inquisitive few are asking those type of questions. And those are the ones that make it from lower middle class to upper class. Statistics show that only 4% of people who are in lower middle class and poverty and homeless will make it out. Only 4%. That means out of 100 youth that are in poverty, only 4 of them will make it out. That means out of 50 youth that are in poverty, only 2 of them will make it out. That means out of 25 youth in poverty, that means less than 1 of them will make it out. Y'all, we got to expose them to things that they thought were once impossible, because only impossible thoughts and only impossible actions can accomplish a possible task and achieve impossible results. We got to show them that the impossible is very possible. Here's one of the other challenges. Here's one of the other things that I want my parents to do. I hope y'all are following. I hope y'all taking notes. I hope y'all are listening. Parents, here's what I want you, on top of exposing your kids to what's possible. One of the other things that I want you to do is, I want you to give your child some sort of goal. I want you to give your child some sort of task, some sort of project that they can work on a regular basis. One of the reasons why these kids are finding themselves in trouble is because they don't have anything that they're working on. They don't have anything that they're working towards. They don't have any goal in mind. They're literally waking up every single day aimless and just going out and doing random daily tasks. And that is completely it. When they come home from high school, the only thing that they have to think about is just high school. Even my athletes, once their sport is over, they don't play 2 and 3 sports anymore. Me, when I was in high school, I was a 3-sport athlete. So every single, after football season was over, it was basketball season. After basketball season, it was volleyball or it was track. After every single season, I was busy, so I didn't have time to get into any trouble. What's happening right now is that kids, they have so much time to get in trouble because they don't have a sport that they're playing. They don't have a project. They don't have a goal. They don't have anything in sight that they have to aim towards. And that's on us as parents, because we're not giving them certain activities to do. We're not challenging them. We're not making them think critically. We're not giving them things that they need to problem solve on. We are literally, and sometimes it's not your fault. Sometimes you so busy, you working 2 and 3 jobs just to maintain and just to put food on the table. We get it. We understand. But here's what I am saying to you. Sometimes enough isn't enough. And sometimes you have got to go above and beyond. Let me ask you the question. Are you going above and beyond for your kids? You got to go above and beyond for your kids. You got to give them some sort of activity. And if you don't have an activity for your kid, the easiest activity that you can have for your kid is have your kid start a podcast. Idle mind is the devil's playground, 100%, because an idle mind is the devil's playground right there. Have your kids start a podcast. I'm telling you, if you got kids between the ages of 10 and 18, they need to have a podcast. They need to start it right now. All they need is a phone. They need a microphone. They can get one of these. You can go on Amazon and get you one of these. These are $30, $20 on Amazon right here. Go get you a lapel mic. Have them start a podcast. Have them start a podcast for real, because here's what happens, right? Here's what happens. Let's say I was talking to a student today. He's interested in architecture, right? Let's say that your kid is interested in architecture. Okay, he wants to be an architect. Now, obviously, he can't be an architect right now because he doesn't have the education in order to be an architect. What he can do, though, is he can research information about architecture. He can talk about architecture. He can talk about some of his favorite buildings. He can talk about the Leaning Tower of Pisa in Italy. He can talk about the Millennium Towers in San Francisco. He can talk about these different buildings, how they were constructed, and all these different things. But that's going to require him to do research, i.e., take up his time in order to research these things. Now, what he's going to do is you're going to find him busy when he gets home from school. He's going to do his homework. He's going to go record a podcast episode for an hour. He's got to record that episode. He's got to edit that episode. He's got to make sure he's got the overlays. He's got to make sure that he's got a logo. He's got to make sure that he's got his YouTube channel popping. He can pop it into to an AI. He can spit out different clips. He can start posting the clips. He can create a social media strategy. Now he's learning, because not only is he learning about architecture, he's also learning about now, well, how do I post content? He's got to create thumbnails. He's got to create captions. He's got to use hashtags. He's got to create an Instagram page. He's got to create a TikTok page. He's got to create a Facebook page. He's got to create a YouTube page. All of these different things he is going to have to create. And the reason that he's going to create these things is because you encourage him to get a podcast. Now, think about how much time your kid will have to do negative things if he's doing a podcast on architecture. Y'all with me? Y'all following me? Let's keep going. Y'all with me? Y'all following me? Let's keep going. Not only is he going to create a podcast centered around architecture, right, where he's going to have conversations himself, he's also going to have conversations with other people who are interested in architecture, right? He's also going to research and find different architecture events. This could be a STEAM podcast: science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. So what he's going to do is, now this podcast that he has, he's going to go and he's going to talk to people who are interested in science, people who are interested in technology, engineering, arts, and math. He's also going to research different events. He's going to talk about the events coming up. He's going to talk to the people that are going to be attending these events. And I promise you, what you will see is you will see this young man begin to get engaged, very engaged in conversations about the thing that he cares about. What will happen is he will easily fall in love with this thing, or he will realize that this is not what I love and I don't want to be here. I promise you. I promise you. The reason why they're not inspired, the reason why they're not inspired is because they don't have anything they're working towards. When your kid goes home, what they do, they get on their phone and they start doing this all the time. If you look, I can't do this at the same time I'm doing this. So if you want your kid to spend less time on social media, tell them to start posting stuff on social media. Tell them stop being a consumer and start being a producer. Have them start producing content as opposed to consuming so much content. Because once you're producing so much content, what happens is you start looking at content differently. You start to look at content as a student as opposed to a consumer. Now you're trying to figure out and learn content. I wonder why they posted it like that. I wonder why they did it this way. I wonder how they got it to do that. I wonder how they added those effects. I wonder how they went and streamed it live. And then they also got it to go on Instagram. They also got it to go on YouTube. They also got it to go on TikTok and on Facebook and on these other platforms. They start to problem solve, right? And here's what they're learning in doing a podcast. Here's what they're learning. Number one, they're learning communication skills. You got to learn how to communicate. In this life, if you want to learn anything, you have got to learn how to communicate. What do they learn through talking? They learn communication skills. Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. They learn confidence. They learn confidence because they're in front of the camera every single day and they got to show up. Even if not one person watches, they still you got to encourage them to show up every single day. So they're learning effective communication and they're learning confidence at the same exact time. Effective communication and confidence at the same exact time. They're learning. They also got to learn how to read, right? They also got to learn how to read and how to comprehend, because the things that they research, they got to know how to read them and comprehend them. And then, oh my goodness, they also got to learn time management. They're also going to learn time management. Not only that, they're also going to learn the workflow of what it looks like to run an actual show. So you mean to tell me that if I encourage my son, my daughter to start a podcast, they're going to learn effective communication. They're going to learn critical thinking and problem solving. They're going to learn reading and comprehension, and they are going to learn. Dang it, what was that second thing that I said? I was trying to waste time, y'all. I was trying to waste time, but y'all know what I'm saying, man. They're going to learn. They're going to learn these things. Communication. They're also going to learn. They're going to learn interview skills. They're going to learn interview skills, y'all, because they're going to be interviewing people who are in these in these different events, right? They're also going to learn research, sustained dialogue. Yes, I love it. All of these things they are going to learn if you encourage your kid to start a podcast. If you want your kid to start a podcast right now, just drop like a me or an I in the chat right now for my people that's online. I want you to drop a me or an I in the chat right now if you're going to encourage your kid to start a podcast. Listen, if you want your kid to be engaged in something other than nothing or something other than negative activities and negative behaviors, make your kid start a podcast. Yo, you starting a podcast today. What is it going to be about? What do you care about? If it's about sports, I don't care. If it's about robotics, if it's about dance, if it's about beauty, if it's about fashion, if it's about modeling, regardless of what it is, what you're going to do is you're going to start to produce winners. You're going to start to produce winners, and winners write history. Losers become a part of the story. Stop allowing your kid to have somebody else, to let somebody else write them into their story, because I guarantee if your child allows someone else to write their story for them, they're not going to write the ending to their life the way that they would have it written. That's the reason why I don't allow anybody to write my story for me. You can't write my story for me. Only I know how I want this to end. And y'all know me, I'm super bougie. Y'all know me, I'm super bougie. I got a crazy ending to this story. You're not going to believe what it's going to look like when it's done. They can start a podcast and not share it. Everyone wants their child to be posted all over social media. Exactly. They can start a podcast and not share it. But what I'm saying in terms of having them posted over social media, I want them to share it. I want them to practice the activity. Right? I don't want them to get caught up in sharing it and what type of numbers I'm doing in terms of sharing it. I want them to, because what's going to happen is they're going to go down the rabbit hole. My people that are in the winner circle, y'all know my motto and my theory on this. It's about going down the rabbit hole. And it's not about it's not about what you uncover going down the rabbit hole. It's about who you become. I can't tell y'all how many additional questions I've asked just because I asked one question. Just because I asked one question, I started to ask additional questions, and then it started to lead to more answers, y'all. It started to lead to more answers. But the only way they're going to get these answers to life is with inquisitive minds. And one of the issues that we're seeing with youth right now, they don't have inquisitive minds. If you ask them if you ask them anything beyond today and right now, they can't tell you. What goals you got? You got any goals? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. What do you want to do when you get out of high school? I don't even know. I just, something, I guess. Yeah. Yep. And here's the thing, y'all. Here's the thing. I'm not saying that I wasn't this kid too. But you know what happened? It took me a long time to try to figure out life. And it was bad. It was bad because the mistakes that I made when I was 18 years old, because I didn't see and understand and learn a lot about life, it took me until about 32. To finish paying for those mistakes. One question is a starting point. Kiera, what do you mean by that? What do you mean that's your one question, the starting point? Tell me what you mean by that. What's your one question in that when you say the starting point? I want the youth need to get to a point where they ask more questions, and the only way that they are going to ask more questions is if they see something that intrigues them. And so if we don't give them something that intrigues them, they're not going to ask more questions. They're not going to be more inquisitive, and they're going to sit at home. You're going to say my kid is not inspired right now. You're going to say my kid isn't passionate about anything. You're going to say that my kid doesn't have any goals. You're going to say that even though they have goals, they're not working to achieve those different things. Here's what I'm going to do with my kids. Okay. You start with one question and it usually leads to more. Absolutely. Absolutely. You start with one question and it usually leads to more. Here's what I'm going to do with my kids. I want you to adopt this philosophy if you care to. Here's what I'm going to do with my kids. I want you to adopt this philosophy if you care to. Y'all ready? The thing that I'm going to do, I am going to, whatever my child tells me they want to be, they desire to be, I'm going to immediately start to address them in that way. So if my child tells me that they want to be a doctor, I'm going to start to now address you as a doctor. I'm going to call you Dr. Young. I'm going to call you Dr. whatever it is that we call you. I call my son Hefe. I'm going to call you Dr. Hefe. We have to start addressing them as the things that they desire to be. If you want to be an architecture, if you want to be an architect, if you want to be a lawyer, if you want to be a judge, if you want to be a professional athlete, listen, I want you to start acting and start behaving like a professional athlete does. And I'm not saying that you have to do that every single day, but I'm saying, listen, if you want to be a professional athlete, then that means we need to go to media training. So you know what that means? After every one of these games with your teammates, these AAU games and these AAU teams, what I'm going to need us to do is I'm going to need us to have an interview, and I'm going to ask you intrusive questions about your play, about your teammates, about your players, about your coach, and I'm going to see how you handle them. Because as a professional athlete, you have to go through media training. As a professional athlete, you've got to learn how to handle yourself in adversity. I'm going to ask you, why do you think you lost the game? Tell me about this player over here. It looks like he always wants the ball. It looks like he's never passing the ball. You got to go through media training, right? In order to be a professional athlete. So if you want to be a professional, I'm going to start treating you and teaching you right now the same way that professionals are taught. So that when you get to that point in your life, you're not surprised by the things that you have to go through, y'all. We can begin to teach our kids at a very young age. They don't have to be professionals in order for us to teach them how to be a professional. They don't have to be because professional athletes didn't become professional athletes when they became professional athletes. I hope y'all caught that. Professional athletes did not become professional athletes when they became professional athletes, y'all. They were professionals before they became professionals. Like if you look at a future professional athlete, if you look at, oh man, what's the young girl from LSU's name? Somebody tell me remind me what's the young girl from LSU's name? What's the young girl from LSU? Oh my goodness. I cannot find it. LSU. Come on now. What's happening? What's the young girl from LSU name? Somebody knows it. Somebody tell me. Oh my goodness. What is her name? I'm on both my phones, so I can't look it up. And my computer is acting weird. My computer is acting weird, y'all. What's the young girl from LSU, from the basketball player? What's her name? There we go. Jeez. LSU women's basketball players. Angel Reese. There it is. Angel Reese. If you look at Angel Reese, right, she's a professional right now. She's got to behave like a professional. She's got to act like a professional. She had all of these things that was going on with her in the beginning of the school year. She handled them extremely well. Probably has an amazing PR team already, getting paid hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars right now in college. But again, is a professional long before she became a professional. You look at Steph Curry, you look at LeBron James, you look at all of the people that we look up to. They were professionals long before they became professionals, y'all. You look at some of the people who struggled with this, and the reason being is because they weren't professionals before they became professionals. You look at someone like i.e. Ja Morant was not a professional before he became a professional. still is a professional right now, had a lot of things and challenges to deal with, right? But we hear less about Ja Morant now, not only in a good way, but not only in a bad way, but also in a good way. Ja Morant isn't making the same type of noise that he was making last year. He's not making the same type of noise that he was making last year. Listen, regardless of what it is, one kid told me she wanted to be a pilot, right? I want to start to figure out, okay, what are the characteristics, the positive characteristics of a pilot? And you got to know what those things are. You got to know what those things are. I need y'all to figure out what those things are. So listen, the biggest one. So listen, I'm gonna wrap this up. If you want more out of your youth, if you got youth or you work with youth between the ages of 10 and 18, what I've learned is that we have to teach them from a perspective and from a lens that they desire to see the world from. If you try to teach them what you want them to learn, they're not going to learn it. They're going to be very apprehensive towards it. They're going to be non-receptive. They're going to be defensive. They're going to be pessimistic towards it. If you try to teach them the things that you want them to learn and you want them to know, they're not going to adjust to it well. I promise you that. You got to teach them from the lens that they desire. So the first thing that I do anytime I'm working with youth, the first thing that I do is I have them create an avatar for me. I have them create an avatar. I have them I need you to create the person that you desire to be first, and then I'm going to show you how and why these skills are important for the person that you said you want to be. They don't give a goddamn rat's butt about why they should be something that you tell them that they should be. But if they say, I want to be a professional YouTuber, I'm going to tell you why reading and comprehension is important. I'm going to tell you why writing is important, because you got to be able to write copy. And almost anything that you do as an entrepreneur, you got to be able to read contracts. You got to be able to send contracts. You got to be able to sign contracts. I'm going to teach you those different things. I don't care what it is that you want to do. You got to learn the psychology of it, right? So create an avatar. Have your kids, if you're struggling with your kids, have your kids create an avatar for who they want to be, and then teach them life skills that avatar has to have. And you can ask them, okay, if you want to be a YouTuber, what are the traits of a great YouTuber? Don't allow them to settle. Don't allow them to just be a regular YouTuber. Force them to say, I want to be the greatest YouTuber there is. Tell them have them say, I want to be Mr. Beast. I want to be Shannon Sharp. I want to be all of these other people who are doing YouTube at an extremely high level. Say, what are the characteristics of a great YouTuber? And what they'll do, they will begin to tell you, well, they have great leadership, they've got great communication, they've got these. How do you think they developed in these areas? One of the ways is they developed it by listening to podcasts, they developed it by reading, they developed it by going to conferences, by having conversations with people, by asking great questions. Have them create an avatar. Create an avatar. Once they create the avatar, you can then teach them from the lens of that avatar as opposed to what you told them they should be. Parenting hack right there. Parenting hack right there. Parenting hack right there. What's up, everybody? Welcome in, Storm. I appreciate you for doing that. Thank y'all so much. Thank y'all so much. Parenting hack right there. Listen, we have got to get to the point where our youth desire something again. They got to desire something. They got to desire a life. They got to desire a goal. They got to desire a task. They got to have a goal, have a task, have a project, have something that they're working on every single day so that you as a parent have less to worry about. With that being said, y'all, I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. I'm going to be doing this every single week. I'm going to be dropping these episodes at least once a week. And what I want y'all to do is I want y'all to share this with a parent. It's going to be on YouTube. I want you to share this with a parent. I want you to share this with a teacher, with an educator, with a friend, with a colleague. I want you to share this with as many people as you possibly can that work in or around young people. I appreciate y'all. Y'all are absolutely amazing. My motto is winners write history, losers become a part of the story, and always stay in your bag so you never got to chase a bag. Talk to y'all next time.